Barbara or Lisa, one of you want to start off
Yeah,
on
I'll
this?
jump in on this. It's what's had the impact on is more than just, what you might expect. It's more than just force majeure, for example. It's really every
Right.
clause in the contract. It's interesting to me as I look across my desk and working on contracts that are coming in, whether they be from hotels or convention centers, that they don't look the same in any respect. And, fair enough. Obviously, the last 2 years have proven challenges, ways to update contracts really on both sides, but carefully review the contract. That's critically important. I'd say that all the time. But if your eyes start to glaze over on rates and fees and you're not seeing something that might be new or different, it's really going to be a big issue. So really take the time to go through the contracts to understand them. We'll talk about things of seeing like more resort fees and charges associated with that. But even things like when it comes to attrition, slipping in a daily versus cumulative, deposit schedules being accelerated, and the rest. These are business items which get pushed certainly out to the marketplace. But for the unsuspecting group who's looking at these contracts saying, "Oh yes, I'm familiar with that chain's contract," don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to the organization. Really take the time to look through the clauses. And remember, more isn't better. Longer isn't better in terms of clauses. What's better are clauses which are clean and smart. Clean from the standpoint that they reflect current best practices, and smart that they make sense for the group, they make sense for the hotel. Ask yourself, if we have to debate this point in 2 years, can you make your argument? Can you make your position? How are you going to make that position? So that's really clear. And so I really do think that as you jump around a contract, and many of one of my top pet peeves is use of inconsistent terms in a contract. Using contract agreement, group, client, etc. And often they say, oh, it's just we just need to clean it up so it looks pretty. No, those things can really serve a purpose. So really take the time. I know things are busy, and that's a good thing, but take the time to really carefully review the clauses, because I will assure you the business terms have changed, and you'll want to know that. You'll want to talk about it. You'll want to have the time and opportunity to negotiate it. And Lisa, I'm obviously working with your hotel clients. I'm sure, as I am experiencing with the group clients, lots of need to, should we retinker this clause or that clause? And often it's the case that, what they had been using had been working for them.
Well, interestingly, Barbara and I usually agree on pretty much everything, but I kind of diverge here because, at least from my clients, I'm not seeing a lot of big changes in the actual clause terms. I am seeing things that Barbara notes that, excuse me, more aggressive deposits and maybe rate issues that are out there. But from my perspective, the things that have really changed the most is attrition clauses. Parties are agreeing more and more on having attrition clauses that require reviews and adjustments of room blocks at various intervals based upon things that are going on. And that's a big change. And of course, everybody wants to change their force majeure clause. And from the hotel perspective, it's getting tighter and tighter and tighter because we've had so many situations in the last year where groups have claimed force majeure and the hotel disputes it. And so those clauses are tightening up. COVID clauses are going away. Unfortunately, COVID is not going away. And because of that, because it's always going to be here from now on, you're going to find that hotels are not going to agree to anything specific with regard to COVID. They're going to be focusing on whether or not there's some government regulation in place that prevents your meeting. Because it's not really the disease, it's the government regulation that prevents the event. But, Barbara's point is a good one. As business is coming back, everybody's under a lot of pressure. And so it's very important to always review every page of your contract very carefully and make sure that everything fits together and that you agree to and understand all your changes. And again, regardless of whether it's attrition or something else, I think it's a good idea to build in times for the parties to sit down and reevaluate whether or not that contract is going to work for them. And if it doesn't, how they're going to adjust it. Is there going to be an obligation if you reduce your block? Is there not? And as Barbara and I have said over the last 2 years, some meeting is always better than no meeting. And so it's better for the parties to sit down 6 months out and say, based on current market conditions, our meeting's going to be smaller, knowing that there's heavy transient demand. Can we adjust our block and maybe not have to pay for that? So all that should be built into your contract.